distance.
So the Pro PASL, more of a Major League Baseball type structure where, in theory, if you want to be the Yankees, that's fine, but you're going to pay the Rays, the Tampa Bay Rays, as opposed to maybe the NBA or whatnot, where you do have that, or the NFL certainly, where you have that salary cap and there's that rigid line. Certainly makes some sense. You mentioned in the record about with any new league, you're going to have some hiccups. I mean, anything that starts up like that, whether it be in sports or anything else, you talked about making the good decisions. I guess in theory, you want to have as few of those hiccups as possible. You certainly have experience now in the pro indoor game. Kevin Milliken, I know, has a lot of experience in the indoor game as well. Do you feel like you'll be able to avoid some of the pitfalls that the MISL had?
I'm experienced with hiccups, sure hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the things is I've been involved with the MISL for 2 years, and I know the fatal flaws that they had, and make sure that the new league doesn't have that. Internally, I know things that messed up, and we won't do that again.
Sure.
So, everybody gets better with experience. In my case, I got 2 years of experience. I'm not a rookie anymore. So, and the PSL right now, Kevin's listened to me. Things that I have to say, he listens and takes to heart. And I listen to things that he says, and he doesn't do everything I ask him to do.
Sure.
But
probably wouldn't want him to either.
No, absolutely not. We've got several owners, and they all have their input, and right now it's working really well. But we're brand new, so hope it continues that way.
Well, yeah, let's talk about it because the league is brand new. Again, there's been the developmental league, as you mentioned, upwards of 70 teams. We mentioned the Pumas, and the Pumas will continue. Is that correct?
In fact, yeah, they got their second game. They got their second game in Turlock Saturday at 1:15. So everybody come out there and watch it at Turlock Indoor. We won our first game last Saturday. We beat Sacramento 12-2, single point scoring. We really played well. And we're hoping to win another summer national champion. We're the defending national champions in the summer. So,
well, let's talk about the makeup now of the Pro PASL. And I know that it's not set yet, that the theory is by mid-June. That's the deadline that Commissioner Milliken has set to have the teams in place and whatnot. We know you were in. I know you probably can't go into as many details as maybe you would like as to the teams and whatnot. But you mentioned Canada, Mexico, there being potential divisions there as well. Talk from the pro standpoint, how many teams are we talking? Regionally based, how often are you going to go across the country to play games? I know it's a whole lot in one, but what's the theory on the overall number of pro teams when it's all said and done?
The total number we're looking is somewhere probably between, I'd say, 14 to 18 is I think where we're going to end up at. Right now we've got 12 absolutely for sure, and we've got a couple of others that may come over from the MISL. There's been some calls. Commissioner Milliken's had some calls, and then they've called me to ask me some questions as well. I don't want to identify them at this point. And then we've got some MISL teams that used to play in the MISL that now are interested in playing again but did not want to play in the MISL anymore. And they're contacted us, and they're real close to coming in. As it relates for schedule, it is going to be more regionalized, kind of like Major League Baseball, quite frankly. The Giants play more games in the Western Division than they do anywhere else. We'll probably have about 2/3 of our games inside our division and 1/3 of our games outside of our division.
And I guess that certainly goes back to, again, one of the issues you had with the MISL, although in theory there weren't enough teams in the West Coast that you could have even played.
Yeah, I guess if I'd have been in West Division, it would have been Chicago, Milwaukee, and Detroit.
Right, so not much of a West Division. Now, you mentioned that 14 to 18. Is that including teams in Canada and Mexico, or would that be a different number altogether?
No, it would be, right now we have a Western Division that's pretty set. And we have an Eastern Division that's pretty set. Each of those have, I think, 4 teams. I know 4 in the West, and there's four in the East. And then we're looking at a Central Division to be able to create basically 3 United States divisions. We have a Canadian division and a Mexico division. So I know that we are going to play in Canada, and Canada is going to come down and play here in Stockton. I've already made that commitment to the Canadian MISL. It's actually the CMISL is what's
interesting.
Partnered with the PASL-Pro.
Right now talking with Jim Rachels. He is the owner of the Stockton Cougars, now starting up in a new league, the Pro PASL, after 3 years as the California Cougars in the MISL. Level of play, again, until people actually are playing games that count, we're not going to truly know, but certainly on paper and what you've heard and whatnot, you have a good idea, I'm sure. Are players from the MISL going to migrate? Are the Stockton Cougar players going to be a lot of former California Cougar players?
Yes. Level of play, not going to be a tell difference. I'm pretty certain. I'm absolutely certain of that. I would say the one spot that we may see a little bit of a drop would be in goaltending. If you look around our league, most of our goaltenders, the top-notch goaltenders, are from Brazil, Canada, and whatnot. So getting their visas, being able to play here in the new league in a short amount of time, may or may not be able to happen. They may have better opportunities overseas than they would here. But as it goes for the field players, I think that you'll see the talent level right at, or maybe even actually a little bit better.
And that's what Brian Farber said in the press release announcing his signing to your team and to the league as well, that, hey, level of play is going to be the same. He said might take a little while for the fans to come to understand that. Is that something that you're a little concerned about? Because people, a casual fan maybe says, okay, well, there's the MISL, those players are gone, here's this PASL, which was previously a developmental league, which it's not. They're different leagues, even though they have the PSL lettering. It's the Pro PSL and the developmental. Is there any concern it might take a while for the fans to come over?
No, there really isn't. We did a little informal poll, and 90% of the fans that we called didn't even know that we played in the MISL. They didn't even know the name of the league. They knew of the Cougars, and they really care about the Cougars. But what the fans going to see, number one, a single-point scoring system, which a lot of people complained about the multi-point scoring system. So we're listening, single-point scoring system. What you're really going to see is the rule changes is going to keep the flow of play going, which speed is going to matter a lot more, because the MISL got real physical. They ran in 3 shifts, knocked people into the boards, weren't calling fouls, people yelling at the refs the whole game. The PSL does not operate that way. And slide tackling's eliminated. Boarding's an automatic blue card. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And it allows the skilled players to use their skill, and speed is really, really magnified in this game because you can't just slide tackle them. You saw it happen with Farber all the time. He'd go to blow by somebody. They just reach out there and trip him. Worst case, it's a foul or whatever. And that's actually how Brian got injured, by a guy throwing his hip into him and hurting him.
And the theory is, in the indoor game, you want to use that speed. That is a premium to have. Interesting to note as well, the California Cougars 10-7 when Brian Farber suited up, 1-12 when he did not. No surprise that he was the first player signed, although technically I guess you already had Bernie Lillois in the mix still as your coach, and there will not be a rule against coaches playing. Is that correct?
Absolutely will not be a rule.
So he
the best players are going to be on the field.
So he automatically becomes, no question, one of the best players in the league because he would have been in the MISL, I'm sure.
We're ecstatic. I don't have to battle that now, and anybody that's watched Bernie play, he's a heck of an offensive player. He's a magician with the ball. He's going to be in our target position. We're going to run all the plays through him. He's a great passer. And what you said about Brian is Brian Farber, there's no substitute for that speed. Our record showed it. We had the fastest player in professional soccer in the world playing here in Stockton.